Vinicius Jr. to Arsenal. Just saying those words sounds completely unbelievable. One of Real Madrid's biggest stars, one of the most dangerous attackers in world football, suddenly leaving the Santiago Bernabeu and becoming the new face of Arsenal? It sounds like fantasy. But this story is no longer based only on random social media rumors. Arsenal are reportedly exploring whether a deal for Vinicius Jr. could actually be possible. Their interest has been described as genuine, although there has been no formal approach or direct club-to-club negotiation at this stage. So, could Real Madrid seriously sell Vinicius? Would Arsenal really spend the enormous amount of money required to sign him? And is this transfer story genuine, or is it being used to put pressure on Real Madrid during contract negotiations? Let's break down one of the wildest stories of the transfer window. Before we continue, it is important to make one thing clear. Vinicius Jr. has not agreed to join Arsenal. Arsenal have not submitted an official offer, and Real Madrid have not publicly placed him on the transfer market. Right now, this is a developing transfer story, not a completed deal. However, the reason people are taking it seriously is simple. Vinicius has entered the final year of his current Real Madrid contract. If Madrid cannot convince him to sign a new deal, they could eventually face a painful decision. They would either need to sell him while they can still receive a huge transfer fee or risk watching him leave for nothing when his contract expires. And that is where Arsenal enter the story. Arsenal reportedly want to strengthen the left side of their attack. They are exploring several possible forwards, so Vinicius is not their only target. But he is clearly the name that would create the biggest reaction. This would not be a normal transfer. This would be Arsenal attempting to sign a genuine global superstar from Real Madrid. Vinicius brings explosive pace, fearless dribbling, and the ability to change a match with one individual moment. When he receives the ball on the left wing, defenders usually have to send extra help because leaving him in a one-on-one situation is extremely dangerous. For Arsenal, that could completely transform their attack. Imagine Vinicius running at Premier League defenders while Arsenal's midfielders create space around him. Imagine the pressure he could remove from Arsenal's other attacking players. He would give them unpredictability. When a match becomes tight and the tactical plan is not working, Vinicius can simply beat a defender and create something from nothing. That is the type of player every elite team wants. But wanting Vinicius and actually signing Vinicius are two very different things. The biggest issue is not necessarily football. It is money. Reports suggest that there is still a significant financial difference between the contract Vinicius wants and the package Real Madrid are prepared to offer. Vinicius reportedly wants his next deal to reflect his status as one of the club's most important players. Some reports have connected his demands with the level of salary and bonuses received by Kylian Mbappe. Real Madrid, however, are known for protecting their wage structure. The club may want to keep Vinicius, but that does not mean they will accept every demand made by his representatives. According to beIN Sports, Vinicius still prefers to remain at Real Madrid, but the financial gap has slowed progress in the renewal talks. The same report says Madrid could eventually listen to offers if both sides fail to reach an agreement. And this is what makes the situation so controversial. Vinicius has already played a major role in Real Madrid's biggest victories. He has performed in Champions League finals and developed from a talented teenager into one of the club's most recognizable stars. Selling a player like that during the best years of his career would be an enormous decision. But allowing him to reach the end of his contract without a renewal would also be a major financial risk. This is where the reports begin to conflict. Some reports describe a genuine contract disagreement and suggest Madrid could consider selling if the situation does not improve. Other reports from Spain have been much more positive. Spanish newspaper AS reported that Real Madrid and Vinicius planned to meet toward the end of July to try to complete a renewal. The report claimed that both the player and the club wanted him to continue in Madrid, as also reported that Real Madrid had not originally been planning to sell him and remained confident that an agreement could be reached. So, are Madrid ready to sell? Not exactly. A more accurate way to describe the situation is that Madrid may be forced to consider a sale if the renewal fails. That is very different from saying they actively want Vinicius to leave. The club's first choice appears to be keeping him. However, the closer he gets to the end of his contract, the more negotiating power moves toward the player, and the more dangerous the situation becomes for Madrid. There is another possibility that cannot be ignored. Arsenal's name could strengthen Vinicius Jr.'s position during contract talks. This happens regularly in football. A player enters an important negotiation. Another major club becomes interested. Suddenly, the current club feels greater pressure to improve its offer. That does not mean Arsenal's interest is fake. Sky Sports reported that Arsenal are genuinely looking into the possibility, although they have not contacted Real Madrid directly. But genuine interest can still be useful during negotiations. Vinicius and his representatives can point to interest from one of England's biggest clubs and say, "We have other options." Real Madrid can respond by making it clear that no individual player will be allowed to damage the club's wage structure. This could become a battle of patience. Even if Real Madrid agreed to sell, Arsenal would face several enormous challenges. First, there would be the transfer fee. Even with only 1 year remaining on his contract, Vinicius would still command a huge price because of his age, quality, and global reputation. Then there are the wages. Arsenal would likely need to make him one of the highest-paid players in the club's history. They would also need to consider agent fees, bonuses, and the effect his salary could have on future contract negotiations with other players. Once one player receives a massive financial package, other important players may ask for improved deals as well. So Arsenal would not simply be buying a winger. They would be changing the financial structure of the club. The question is whether they believe Vinicius is the special player worth making that change for. From Vinicius Jr.'s perspective, Arsenal would offer an interesting opportunity. He could become the central star of a major Premier League project. At Real Madrid, he shares the spotlight with several global names. At Arsenal, he could immediately become the face of the team. The Premier League would also give him a new challenge and an enormous international platform. But leaving Real Madrid is never a simple decision. Madrid can offer Champions League tradition, global prestige, and the opportunity to continue competing for the biggest trophies every season. Vinicius has also reportedly made it clear that his preference is to stay. That means Arsenal may only have a real opportunity if the relationship between the player and Madrid breaks down completely. So, is Vinicius Jr. going to Arsenal? Right now, the honest answer is probably not, but the possibility can no longer be dismissed completely. Arsenal's interest appears to be real. The contract problem at Real Madrid also appears to be real. But there has been no formal offer, no agreement, and no sign that Vinicius has decided to leave Spain. Real Madrid's priority remains renewing his contract. Arsenal's opportunity only becomes serious if those negotiations collapse. This story is not yet Vinicius to Arsenal. It is a contract standoff with the potential to become one of the biggest transfer sagas in football.